Hey, it's the Four with Playboy.
And my Playboys Bunny.
Welcome to our podcast where we discuss pickup, gang, relationships, and
Sex.
And today, the topic is tall girls are lonely.
Oh, good title, baby.
Well, it's ugly but true.
Yeah.
And what brought it to mind was I was scrolling the timeline today, and a woman who happens to be tall had cited some scientific literature that from the 50s through the 70s, girls were given high doses of estrogen if they started to show signs of being taller than average. You know, anything over 5'7". And doing so, the whys. I mean, a lot of times, you know, in the literature, they were like, why are we doing this? You know, so they can become athletes, so they won't outgrow being ballerinas, you know, or they can't get a job as a flight attendant. These are all, you know, weirdly, you know, strange reasons. But what she finally really dug into, they treated them. The most commonly cited reason in scientific literature for reducing the height of tall girls, however, was social attractiveness. Mm-hmm. Since tall girls usually become tall women, the biggest concern seemed to be that tall women would have a hard time fitting in, being comfortable in social situations, and most importantly, finding a man to marry.
That's right.
It's still important.
That's right.
And I say it, and you get a little bit of pushback on it sometimes for these guys that are relative. I always say all guys should, you know, if you see a tall girl, you should approach her. She's lonely.
Yeah.
Their pool of men to choose from is smaller.
It is.
By social
Absolutely.
standards.
Absolutely.
There's not a charismatic man, short man out there that 9 times out of 10 can't overcome that. You know, a man with game can overcome stature.
Sure.
Let's not make any mistake. But this subject is about tall girls. You know, when you get girls that are 5'11", 6 foot, they want to be able to wear. Bunny taught me this. Girls don't care how tall you are; they just want to be able to wear heels.
Yeah.
You know, so if she's 6 and her heels are 6'2", and you're 6, now she's taller than you.
Right.
So their pool to pull from is smaller. But back in the 50s through the 70s, they would actually treat women with high doses of estrogen to keep them shorter, just kind of like they do TRT with kids, or, you know, they're shorter men now in youth and adolescence. They'll try to get them to grow.
Yeah.
With growth hormone.
Yeah.
But I always tell guys to approach tall girls. They're open to it. They have fewer men approach them.
Sure.
What do you think?
Well, what I was just thinking about as you were saying that was talking about, I think that I believe that whenever when you say tall girls, men picture the 10 supermodels in the world. You know what I mean? Like, literally, it's like, oh, I love tall girls. No, that's not the norm. That's the anomaly. The 10s, the 9s, the 10s who are making their looks on being tall and beautiful are the anomaly. That is not who we're talking about. I mean, we're talking about the freaks of nature, the ones who feel like the freaks of nature because they're tall girls who outgrew everyone in 6th grade and are still awkward and tall and uncomfortable. And
it doesn't take much for them to feel that way.
It doesn't.
They only have to be a little bit taller than everybody.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's where you saying anything over 5'7" really is tall for a woman. But it just, make no mistake that when we're talking about going on and talking to them, it's because they're not all the supermodels that all men are already drooling over. We're talking about the normal girls who are also tall and feel uncomfortable and unlovely. Because it's hard to be delicate when you're tall. And when you're delicate as a female, that feels more feminine. It feels more beautiful. There are a lot of benefits that go with that in the sphere of attractiveness.
It's a good point. I mean, it's a good point. Let's say your average 6. Guys are not unsure of themselves approaching a 6 in general.
Right.
a tall 6, they don't approach.
It's true.
You
because
know?
a tall 6 is more like a 4. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with her. She's still a lovely
It's the anomaly.
girl. Yeah.
What's interesting is, in my perception, and I grew up in the 80s, I noticed even then tall girls tended to be extremely self-conscious.
Yeah.
They tend to stoop.
They have terrible
They did not
posture.
have good posture.
Terrible.
And then I'd say, and maybe it's just because of my age, but I've noticed in the last 20 years, tall girls taking more pride in their height. That may just be a change in my perception of them. I don't see them as a peer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
that's a good
younger
point.
girls that are like college age, high school, college age, tend to carry themselves better. Maybe it was because these girls in the 80s carried themselves so badly.
Well, and I think that taller. I don't think it's a complete misconception on your part, because I think that now there are more options and opportunities athletic-wise. They're like, oh, she's tall. She can play basketball. She can play volleyball. She can crank at the hurdles, whatever it might be. You know, I think they get more recruited. So then they're appreciated for that height. But when it comes to sexual attraction, it's still something that makes them uncomfortable. It's like seeing the jock girl in a dress. It's the same kind of thing. She looks awkward. She's mousy. She's not secure. She's embarrassed. But on the court, she's a firehouse. You know, she's on it.
But it doesn't translate.
No.
Because being a jock girl doesn't translate like being a jock guy.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
A lot of them don't like it.
But it's similar. Even if
Yeah.
she's not a jock, if she's getting positive attention for her height in one area, that doesn't necessarily translate to all areas.
And even girls will be like, you have model height. You know, she's like 5'11", but the boys don't see it that way. You know what I mean? I mean, but the good thing, probably say the good thing in like the last 10 or 20 years is now they have nicer, it's like maternity clothes. There's more choices. They don't have to dress badly. You know, things actually fit. There's more going in their favor. But again, you know, their pool will be smaller than a girl of equal attractiveness who is 5'2".
Yeah.
You know, just in this, I guess, just like Bunny says, small equals feminine.
Yeah.
And tall is not as feminine, you know.
Right.
So they carry that around all the time.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, and just like you, I mean, you're 6'2", and I always say that you carry yourself in a way that seems even taller than that. I always think that you're 6'4", 6'5". But I'm 5'2", 5'3", depending on who's measuring me. And you've said, I mean, and I'm still like on the tall side of what you have generally dated. You've said yourself that tall girls have never been your thing. And if anybody could get away with dating a taller girl without really even noticing, it's you.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And that's strange. It's strange. It's strange. But again, you know, for guys, it's like, who's attracted to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And tall girls do tend to play a little bit closer to the chest.
Yeah.
They're not as, just like you, very social.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or comfortable and social. They're not as social. And even like 10% less social, you go to the back of the line.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's a big swing.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's why we reinforce, and it's not just our imagination. But it is funny, like sometimes you always get the, what do you say, counterintuitive?
Uh-huh.
These guys are like, I want tall kids.
Yeah.
You know, so they're actually looking.
There's a niche for guys who love tall girls. There's a niche for guys who love redheads. There's a niche for guys who love big girls.
Yeah.
All of it. I mean, there's a type for everyone.
For sure.
But I did find this research particularly interesting, that the real purpose, when you dial it down, the purpose of the research is so that a woman can find a husband.
And nothing has changed.
No.
Nothing has changed since the beginning. Women need protectors.
Yeah.
Up to tomorrow, women's primary purpose until they have kids is to find that husband.
Yes.
You know.
Exactly.
That's good.
Woo! It's a lot to unpack. My goodness. Look at us diving into research. if you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. Comment down below. We'd love to hear your stories.
Yeah, you scored with any tall girls.
Yeah. Or not. You know, whatever your preference is.
Or do you avoid them?
Or, you know, have you known a tall girl that you maybe didn't even think a thing about, but, you know, she was secure or insecure or whatever you saw in her. So we want to hear your stories. We love to read your comments and jump in there with you. We want you to win. Bye!